everybody, long time no sit down and chat. How are you doing? I hope you're well. Me? I'm pretty good now, but it was a bit of a rough time that I had recently. 10 weeks ago I fractured my talus. Now the talus is that fun little bone in the middle of the foot, the ankle basically, that connects everything, which is a very important and fun bone to have injured. Also, if you're new to my channel, I live in Tokyo, and so yeah, I got to experience not being able to use my foot in Tokyo. It's going to be quite a bit of a long story, but I want to talk about all aspects of what I experienced, what it's like here for accessibility. But I will let you know I was only temporarily disabled. I don't have the full experience that other creators and other people are going to have. Also, if I say anything that is ignorant or the wrong kind of terms in this, please feel free to correct me in the comments, because yeah, it was my first time you know, having to deal with accessibility issues and being in a wheelchair. So yeah, let me know if I use terms or say things that are not the best for the disabled community. Also, there is a creator called Josh Grisdale, and he has done heaps of content about accessibility in Japan. So he'll definitely be able to give more detail and more knowledge than what I can provide with only my short, like 5 weeks doing wheelchair stuff in Japan. In this story, I'm gonna lovingly talk shit about really close friends of mine as well, because none of us were trained in how to work with people with a disability. None of us were trained in what you're supposed to do when someone's in a wheelchair. And so a lot of things went wrong, things that I didn't even know about. And I don't blame my friends, but I will be honest about how the experiences felt and hope it's a good listen to you guys as well, because now I know, and now if someone else is in a chair, or if I ever end up in a chair again, I can be very straightforward and be like, this is okay, this isn't okay, and this is how you work with someone in a wheelchair. This is such a long story. I'm just realizing we're gonna be here for a while. But yeah, without further ado, let's get stuck into the deets. So what happened? Something happened. I actually can't talk about the exact specifics of what happened, but I can tell you I was jumping. I jumped with my full weight onto something, and my foot landed, the front landed, but the back didn't. And so the back went all the way down with all of my weight, and my legs stayed upright, and it went really fast. I felt, this is some details that might not be nice to hear, I felt like a pop, like a crunchy pop, and I felt all the liquid in my body drain into my foot. And I landed and I was like, that was bad. That was a really bad one. And I just kind of waited as the pain set in, and I was like, yeah, that's not good. That's not a good one. I actually happened to be in Kyoto at the time. So I took the ambulance to a Kyoto hospital, which was quite small. It was just a local hospital. They saw me immediately. I was a bit warm, so they thought I had a fever, and I had the most brutal COVID test of my life. They did an X-ray. And they said they couldn't really tell what was going on, and that I could pay extra for a CT scan, but also they didn't have any foot specialists in the hospital, and so it would be better if I went to a hospital closer to where I lived. But they were like, you can get a CT scan here, but it's going to be super expensive. It's going to be very, very expensive. So after a little bit I was like, yeah, I'll just pay for it. It should be okay. The CT scan ended up being about 10,000 yen. I'll put the prices on screen, but it's about $66 US. Also, I do pay for health insurance in Japan, so this is with health insurance. So they had a look at the CT scan and they're like, yeah, you have fractured your talus, basically fractured your ankle. They gave me a splint, so like a hard backing, and then they wrapped up my foot in a big bandage. And I will say the pain was really bad. Yeah. Wow. Mamma mia 誰言うんじゃないけど Mamma mia. Because the talus, any movement, even if it's resting, like your foot's just naturally resting, it's still putting a little bit of pressure on the talus. And so there was no position that didn't feel horrifically uncomfortable. They gave me some, I don't know how to say it, loxaprophen? The Kyoto hospital gave me some crutches, but they did say that the crutches would be 5,000 yen, but if we return them, then we get the 5,000 yen back. Luckily, we did manage to return the crutches. Also, this entire time, when I say we, I was with my Japanese friend, and they helped me through the entire process in Kyoto. The whole hospital thing was in Japanese. My Japanese ability, I was okay at the clinics, but the hospital, especially with the initial shock of everything, it was really great having somebody there who spoke Japanese and was able to fully understand what was going on. So I got the crutches and suddenly I was off on my own. So with everything at the hospital, it was around 11,000 to 12,000 yen, I believe. And then plus the 5,000 for the crutches. I was out of the hospital and I was in Kyoto. So took a taxi to Kyoto Station. Huge note, I live on the 4th floor of a walk-up. So there is no elevator. The stairs are quite narrow. It's like a lot of stairs. I was like, I can't get home. I couldn't even sit still without there being quite a lot of pain. My plan was to stay in a hotel a little bit away from my place because there was a hotel, they had wheelchair that I could use while I was there, and there was an elevator, and my friend lived in the area and they were going to come and look after me and help me get to clinics and stuff. So we organized that. But getting back to Tokyo was pretty rough. We took a taxi to Kyoto Station. I knew that Kyoto Station had a wheelchair for the Shinkansen area. So we went to the Shinkansen area and they brought out this wheelchair, and immediately I sat down. I was like, oh, thank God. I was just so exhausted from the day and everything. Also, I hadn't eaten at this point. We were like, okay, actually, we want to go get some food. Can we use the wheelchair to go get some food? And they were like, nah, this is the Shinkansen wheelchair. It specifically only is used for the Shinkansen and only is used like within the gates. It's not really common that we'll take it outside the gates. And I was like, okay. Is there any seats around somewhere close by so I can sit down and my friend can get me food? And they're like, there's seats on the other side of Kyoto Station or up these stairs. And I was like, can you help me get to them? And they're like, we cannot do that. And I looked over and there was a bus stop over 2 small crossings. It was still a part of the station, but it was like taxis and then bus stop. And I was like, can you push me over to that bus stop so I can go sit at the bus stop? And they said, the chair doesn't go that far. The Shinkansen chair cannot travel that far. The chair must stay within the guide and the limits. And I was like, yeah. But I'm sure if you have your own wheelchair, it's gonna be a much more straightforward process of getting on and off of Shinkansen with your own chair. But to borrow their chair, there was a lot of restrictions. So I got out of the chair and I went over to the bus stop. I sat down. My friend went and got me McDonald's. It was the best McDonald's I've had of my entire life because I was so hungry and so tired and so done. Oh, when it hits, you know, it hits. It was great. Went back to the Shinkansen gate, got in the chair. They took me to the restroom. I went into the restroom, you know, closed the door and everything. It was the disabled restroom. I used it. They gave me the crutches and the wheelchair. And then I opened the door and they were gone. The staff were gone. I was by myself. They were waiting for me around the corner. And it's like, if I'm in a wheelchair and holding crutches and the wheelchair is not a self-propelled, like you can't push it yourself, it's just one that someone else can control. How the f am I supposed to get around the corner to be like, hey, I'm ready now? Luckily, it was a foreigner. A traveler saw me stuck in the doorway with my crutches and my wheelchair like, help! And then he made the connection that the guy waiting around the corner was the guy who was supposed to be taking care of me, and then they were like, oh, are you done? So the Shinkansen trip was pretty painful because any slight movement of the train or the chair or anything, any movement of my foot was super painful, but got it done. It was about, what is it? It's like 2 hours to get back to Tokyo from Kyoto. With the wheelchair, they brought me onto the train, got me into the seat, and then they took the chair back out. And then when I got to my station, they came onto the train with a wheelchair, got me on the chair, and then got me out through the gates. And I said, cool, hey, thanks guys, can you take me to that elevator that's just over there? And they were like, no, the chair doesn't go that far. The chair stays with us, lady. The chair, we don't take the chair over there. And then I struggled over to the elevator. So then caught a taxi to the hotel that I was staying at, got a chair at the hotel, went up to the hotel, and finally I got to lie down. That was 8 hours after the fracture to when I got to lying down was, yeah, 8 hours. Everything I had to do was on one foot. I couldn't touch my foot to the ground at all. It was suddenly this new way of living that was really sucky. The next day, a friend helped me get to a foot clinic. I originally went to the wrong clinic and I was like, why is there a staircase up to a foot clinic? And they saw me, they're like, oh, come on in, oh, you poor thing. And I was trying to get up these stairs like, ow, ow, oh God. And I looked at the sign, I was like, wait, this is not the foot clinic, is it? They're like, no, this is like bone recovery and rehabilitation. I was like, oh, where's the foot clinic? They're like, it's down the road and up a flight of stairs. I was like, oh. The clinic owner was so lovely, and he got his car and he drove me personally to the foot clinic. Bless that man. I want to go visit him and give him a present because saved my life, honestly. So I went to this foot clinic, went in there, they checked out the CT scan and they're like, yep, it's a fracture. We need to give you 1 more week because your swelling is insane. We need the swelling to go down and then we're going to put you in a cast for 5 to 6 weeks. And I was like, no! Honestly, foot injuries can be way, way worse and take way, way longer to recover. So I didn't realize how lucky I was, but I was like, I wanted 2 weeks, which is not a realistic goal. I got in a taxi to come back to my home, and my friend met me at my apartment and took my luggage while I went on my butt and went up the stairs like one by one, like backwards. Again, with my leg hovering the entire time in the air. My leg muscles were so sore. Like, using so many muscles that I'd never used. Learning how to use the toilet as well. Like, in the hotel there was no disability friendly like things to grab onto. So trying to do like a one-legged squat onto the toilet. But yeah, I made it home. My friend got me groceries. And then suddenly I was in my home and I was stuck for quite a long time. Every movement took a lot of effort. The ability, like what I could do every day suddenly went down to, like if I showered, that was like a half a day event. I just slept. I slept so much. Then I started deciding, okay, so how can I improve my everyday life? What do I need? So my family in Australia started recommending a knee scooter, and I started seeing videos of this knee scooter thing where you can have one foot on the scooter and your knee resting on it, and you can just zip around and do whatever you want. And I saw people using them outside and like zipping around with their kids and stuff, and I was like, all right, that sounds really good. Is not really a thing in Japan. Here it's just crutches and wheelchairs. At the same time, I knew that I wanted to go out for Christmas and New Year's. And so I thought of hiring a wheelchair. I also had a lot of people message me and say, why are you in a wheelchair? Why aren't you using crutches? I don't know if those people, or if you have the same kind of question, I don't know if you've experienced being on crutches for a long period of time, but when I go outside and want to live my whole day, it's like an 8-hour day. And going through Tokyo, it's traveling long distances and doing lots of different stuff. It's not just like going to the shops and coming back. Even with that, crutches are really exhausting. And I think people can get super good at them if you want to focus on that and you have like a disability for a long time, or if you have an injury for a long time, you can get really strong and really good at crutches. But because my recovery time was a little bit shorter, having a wheelchair just felt like it was the best way for me. And I'm glad that I did that. There's no way in hell I would have been able to do it on crutches. So I started looking. There was a guy who had a knee scooter, and it said in the description that he bought it from China for 100,000 yen. It took 7 weeks to arrive, in which time he had already healed, and then he couldn't sell it because nobody knew what a knee scooter was. So he brought the price down to 10,000 yen. I was like, that's the one, baby! Yeah, so the knee scooter was honestly such a huge improvement. Really recommend it if you guys get a foot injury. Really, really good. But it was a little small. I'm glad it was small because it fit through my apartment. Getting around the corners in it was a little frustrating with how skinny my apartment doors are, but still it was a huge improvement. And I thought, okay, well, let me take this to my local clinic. I'll be able to go out on my knee scooter. My knee scooter was not built for the outdoors. A lot of them are. I didn't know there was a difference or that they did different styles. Yeah, the journey to the doctor was really bad. It was so rickety, there was no suspension, so I was like, I thought I was gonna fall over and die constantly. If there was any kind of like slant, I was like, oh, oh god. For the wheelchair, I looked online. Kuruma is wheelchair. Car chair in Japanese. Vroom vroom. If you're coming to visit and you want to use a wheelchair while you're here and you don't want to bring your own, there is a website where you can order a wheelchair to be delivered to the airport. You need to do it at the very least 1 week in advance, and they will bring a wheelchair to the airport and you can use that for your time in Japan. Or they'll bring it to your hotel. But for me, I wanted something a bit quicker And I found a website called Furansubed. It's mainly for equipment for elderly people and for me. I was like, are they gonna be okay with me renting this stuff? So they had heaps of different wheelchairs for different kinds of things going on with different specialties. I liked the checkered pattern on mine, and there was some brakes for the person behind me. They could hold on, and it was like you could propel it yourself as well. Some of them, the wheels aren't intended for the user to use, so I wanted ones that I could use myself. I think I got it within like 3 days or something. It was really quick. I initially paid almost 5,000 yen, and then when they picked it up, I had to pay another 7,000 yen. But I had it for like a month and a half, I think. And I was very happy to pay that amount. Also, one interesting note, I feel like because they work mainly with elderly people, they have a much older system for bed. And when they came and delivered the wheelchair, they were like, okay, we need your hanko. And I was like, okay, I can't just sign it. And they're like, nah, you have to have your name stamp. Thank God I had one. I don't know what they would have done if I didn't have a name stamp. And luckily I had ink too. They didn't carry ink on them. So thank God, because I never use it anymore. But thank God, all those years ago, I got a name stamp and I got like a little ink pad from Daiso and it still worked. Thank God. The clinic I went to on the knee scooter, I went to him. I had a x-ray, and then he checked the x-ray and I gave him my CT scans. And I told him the previous clinic was like, okay, 5 to 6 weeks, you need a cast after 1 week. And he kind of laughed. I was like, interesting reaction. He was like, I don't think you need a cast. I think you need to be taking hot baths. I think you should just keep the splint and the bandages and then change them often and get into the bath and start moving your foot like this. And I was like, he's like, all right, and push down. I was like, and he was like, okay, yeah, you need it. It's just very gently, just start doing these kind of exercises and taking hot baths. And he's like, I reckon 3 to 4 weeks. Yeah, I started with that method. He then gave me some shippu, which is like these, maybe like a menthol bandage that you get here. And with that, it was about 2,000 yen. So then I had my wheelchair, my scooter, and my crutches, and I used all of them, which was awesome. And I started being able to go out. So this was my first time ever using a wheelchair. I just winged the entire thing. I was like, yeah, I'll figure it out. I don't know if I'd recommend that, but I knew for the trains, I had seen people getting onto the train before with a slope. When I got to the train station, I went up to the train guy in the window and I said, I want to go to this station. And then he looked up a route. He was like, okay, is transferring here okay? Is this train okay? And I said, yeah. I went through, somebody came out with the slope. You're going to this station, right? And I said, yeah. So I follow them. They go take me to the elevator. We go down. They take me, they're like, they always ask, is there any car in particular that you want to ride in? When I started, I was like, yeah, any car's okay, generally. Sometimes I would say a car that's closest to the elevator at the end station. So you get down onto the platform, they'll take you to the car that you want to use, or they'll just find a car that they think will work for you. They'll scan a QR code and let the train coming know that there's a wheelchair user who's going to be getting on the train. The train will pull up, they'll get confirmation and say, okay, we're gonna put the slope down. And they'll say, yep, go for it. They'll put the slope down and then they say, go for it. And you go up the slope and onto the train. You say thank you, and then the doors close and the train goes pew. Then you ride on the train. Hopefully you're in an area with a kuruma space. They are, yeah, much more comfortable than areas that don't have that. Then you ride until the area you were gonna transfer or until the end station. If it's a transfer area, there will always be somebody waiting at the door. The door will open and there'll be someone there and they'll let everyone else off first, and then they'll put the slope down and then you get off. And then they'll say, okay, do you need guidance or do you need help getting to your next transfer? Or they'll just take you to the next transfer, or they'll say, do you need any help leaving the station? And you can say, yeah, or you can say, no. And then you go where you gotta go. Most stations usually only have one elevator entering into and out of the station, which is a little frustrating, but it is what it is. There's an elevator. Oh good, there's a ramp into the station. Oh good, a ramp just for me. Oh good, a ramp just for me. Also with the trains, some of them did it better than others with the speed, especially like the Keio Inakashira line. That line was really, really good. I'd turn up and be like, hey, I want to go here. And they'd say, okay, Just go through, and I'd go through and they'd be like, all right, let's go. And they have the ramp ready. I'm like, oh, wow, we're going already? Awesome. There were some other lines where I'd be like, hey, I want to go to this station. They're like, okay, go through and wait for us. I'd go through and wait time. I actually got to the point where I was like, did they forget about me? Timing for everything was very difficult because I didn't know how long they were going to take to bring the ramp. It wasn't a super long time usually, but a couple of times I was like, come on guys, I got places to be. Also, important app, Wheelog. I ended up not using Wheelog too much because I was just winging it, and I know Tokyo better than like a tourist who's visiting, but as a tourist, I think I would recommend Wheelog. It shows you where all of the disabled entrances and toilets and disabled friendly cafes and stuff are. It's all rated and reviewed and created by wheelchair users who will say like, I've been here and it's good, I've been here and it has this. It'll say what accessibility options it has, which is very important because I will say one of the biggest problems in Tokyo was there's so many wonderful cafes, they're all so good. They all have a bloody step up into them, just one step. And if they have a little wheelchair accessible slope, it's not really wheelchair accessible, it's these really bumpy, nasty, steep, like, you gotta really, they don't feel very safe. There was one cafe, I love that cafe. It's very modern, it's very fancy. They have a huge disabled bathroom there. Like wheelchair accessible bathroom. It has, you know, all the facilities. It's just awesome. And it has 3 steps up into the cafe. I was in a very lucky position where I could get up and walk a few steps from the chair. So if you're in that position, a lot more Tokyo is going to be accessible to you because you'll be able to get up and just get over like that one little step into a cafe or wherever. But if you can't do that, it's really frustrating. Like there's just like I mean, I did get up over some curbs. Like I had some friends, you know, lift me up and then push me up, but doing it yourself would be very, very, very difficult. Also, when you're looking up stuff for wheelchair accessibility, it's called baria free. That is the term that is used for like wheelchair accessibility. Oh, there's so many aspects to the story, it just keeps going on. But we're in it for the long run, we're doing good, we're doing good. Also, just on regular Google Maps, it will say if a place is wheelchair accessible or not. All the restaurants and cafes I went to, everybody was really lovely. Everybody made a lot of changes. They would remove chairs if I was going to slot my chair into where the chair was. Always helped me into the store. They tried to make accommodations as much as possible. So everybody was super lovely and really, really kind. The train staff as well were always really nice. A lot of the time they would get down on my level to talk to me, which at the beginning I didn't understand because I just started and I was like, oh, it feels weird that they're like squatting down to talk to me. But eventually I appreciated it a lot because I got so tired looking up at people and talking to them. Now I want to talk about how I found the experience being in a wheelchair and what I learned about, how you interact with people in a wheelchair. So I didn't know why I was so stressed in the wheelchair. And gradually over time, I learned there's a huge thing with autonomy. My image of a wheelchair is somebody pushing you around. And I was like, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, you know, I'll just sit in the chair and my friends will push me around. Which seems like it would be fun. I had a lot of people tell me, oh man, that sounds easy. That sounds like such a blast. And I had some people who tried the chair and they're like, yeah, this is awesome. And I'm like, have you tried 8 hours? Have you tried multiple weeks in a row? Even if you love and trust the people pushing you, they're not trained. My friends were not trained in how to interact with a disabled person. A lot of big no-nos, which I didn't know were no-nos, where if I'm pushing myself, and someone comes up and takes the chair and starts pushing me. It's kind of like if you're just walking along and someone comes and picks you up. It's like, I was walking, I was just doing it myself. You don't really, the lack of control is really rough. First day I went out, I would be pushing myself and then I would suddenly feel myself go faster because my friend would grab the handles and start pushing me. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what it feels like when I'm getting pushed. Okay, that's that sensation, I'll just get used to that. And I was making my way out of Muji and suddenly I felt myself go faster and I was like, okay, they've got me, and I let go. But turns out I was just going faster because I was going down a hill and I was like, I like hit a thing at the bottom and I almost fell out of the chair. But that feeling is really awful. Like, it's kind of funny talking about it, but it was really awful that like, oh God, I can't trust, you can't see what people are doing and you can't really trust that they're gonna be okay with like pushing you. If you ever have the urge to push someone in a wheelchair, you have to ask permission. I didn't know that was a thing. And then I had my friends from Australia visit, and one of them had experience working with disabled people. And a friend of mine grabbed the chair and I was like, okay, I'm just getting pushed now. And my friend said, oh, actually, you're not supposed to do that. You always ask permission before you push someone in a wheelchair. And I almost cried because it was the first time that anyone with any experience like said something that I was like, oh, thank God. Like, please ask permission. I also felt bad pushing myself all the time. Like people wanted to, I was much slower than everyone else. And I felt like, you know, I just wanted people to just get on with their day and just push me. But it was very important for me to be able to push myself and be able to control where I'm going and at what speed. There were times where I'd get pushed into people in front of me because the person behind me who's pushing can't see the front of the chair and everything. There was a lot of really stressful situations that I didn't understand why they were happening or what was going on, but it's like having my own autonomy. I literally only figured it out at the end when I was pushing myself, that I was like, oh, thank God, like I need to be able to push myself. I need to be able to do this for myself. It was so important. If I needed help, I would say, hey, can someone push me for a little bit? Can someone help me up this hill? My friend who got told, oh, you need to ask permission beforehand. There was a bit where I was going down quite a steep hill and I felt her grab the handles. And I turned around, made sure she was holding me. And I was like, okay, she's pushing me now. And I would let go. And then she, at the same time, remembered, I'm supposed to ask permission before I grab the handles. She was like, ta-da! I was like, no! And I had to grab the wheels, which is quite painful. Okay, like grabbing a very fast spinning wheel with like all my weight on it is yeah. And you know, it's like, you can be like, it's okay, it's totally fine, it happens. But that feeling of like, I can't trust anything, I feel so, yeah, that lack of autonomy and that lack of trust was really, really rough. And I think, you know, if I had more time in it, I would be able to build up like a understanding and knowledge with my friends of how you're supposed to go about things and everything. But for that short amount of time, it was just a little bit chaotic. It was a little bit of a mess. Yeah, it's like some days when I started, you know, if my friends would spin me around, I'd be like, wee, you know, haha. And then eventually I was like, just don't do that. I was like, I don't want to do that. I didn't say I wanted to do that. So yeah, if you're pushing someone in a wheelchair, just be very mindful of asking permission before you do things. It can be fun to push people and it can be fun to try it out, but it's like, it's very important to get consent for any kind of wheelchair stuff. Also, a sore butt. Oh my God, my butt got so sore. It got so sore because you're just sitting. You're just sitting all day in the same spot. Oh, and one more thing. It's kind of lonely being in a wheelchair. I actually really struggled with it because everybody was having conversations without me. You know, if someone's pushing you and there are people behind you, everybody's chatting to each other. I'd be at like stoplights, we'd stop at a stoplight and people would just start chatting behind me. And like, I remember coming out of a gig and, you know, I got parked up a hill and then everybody's chatting behind me and I had to keep saying to people, hey guys, can you like have this conversation in front of me because I want to be a part of it. And people would be like, oh yeah, whoops, I didn't even think about that. And it's like, I understand, but also with saying that doesn't feel very good as well. If you're with a wheelchair user, definitely talking to them, being on their level, or at least standing in front. The amount I had to talk where I'm like literally like this was insane. It was so much. But I did a bunch of stuff when I was in the wheelchair. Like I went to the New Year's market in Asakusa. In Asakusa, they have like a wheelchair accessible elevator up to Sensoji. So that's cool. If you just go around the back, there's an elevator to get you up to the temple. Yeah, some random places did have really good wheelchair accessibility stuff. And yeah, if you use the app and do a bunch of Googling, it will say if something is wheelchair accessible. So I think in general, I can't compare Tokyo to anywhere else because I've never experienced wheelchair accessibility anywhere other than Tokyo. But Tokyo was pretty good. I will say the curbs are a bit harsh. When you're going over like, you know, crossings or even if the curb is sloped down to get up onto there's always a little lip. Oh, some memories of like friends. I love my friends. It is not their fault. They just didn't know. Where it's like, oh, how do we get over that little lip? How about I send it? How about we just go as fast as possible and try to get over it? It's like, don't do that. Just pull up the chair a little bit and get over the lip. But I was slammed into curbs sometimes unintentionally. I am still grateful. I'm so grateful for my friends for getting me out of the house, for taking me around. They did an awesome job for not having any knowledge. I didn't have any knowledge. I didn't instruct them on how to do it, so they did a great job. And I still got to experience a lot of really good things for New Year's and for Christmas as well. It all went, yeah, pretty good. There were things that were difficult and a lot of good learning moments for me. I encountered a lot of people who were kind and made really nice decisions, and I encountered some people who just weren't making the right kind of decisions that they should have around a person in a wheelchair, I think. A lot of people on their phones walking directly towards me. I was kind of out of everyone's range of awareness. So a lot of people wouldn't notice me until the last second. They just walk straight towards me, and at the last second they'd notice me and go around me. But that feeling of someone coming towards you who's it's kind of intimidating. I had people step over me when they realized I was there. I had people stepping over my legs. I had a lady getting off the train. She could have asked the people in front of her like, oh, hey, sorry, I need to get off the train. But I think she saw the path of least resistance was here, but I was down here. And she just went, she's like, oh, there's someone here. Let me step over them. And I was like, that wasn't the right decision to make. And then I had to try to move my chair to get out of her way because she was trying to step over my legs. I was at a cafe and I was sitting down and my wheelchair was next to the couch and I was with my friend. The guy came over and there was some chairs next to us and he was like, oh, sorry, and there were other chairs as well, and some people who were about to get up from a couch of 3. He was like, oh, there's a family of 3 that have just come in, so can I get you both to move to these other chairs? And I was like, I'm confused, like, do you want me to get up or do you want me to like move my wheelchair? He's like, oh, whose wheelchair is this? I'm like, it's my wheelchair, I have an injury. He was like, oh, that's okay, yeah, the wheelchair can stay here, but you guys have to move because there's a family of 3 that have just come in and we want to put them in these chairs. And I was like, okay, I have an injury that's gonna take me a lot of effort and time to do that. He was like, it's okay, take your time. and he made me get up and move chairs, and that was like, at that point, that was a really hard thing to do, and the chair was quite low down. And then like some other people were already leaving, like another seat of 3. Anyway, it was just, that was one moment where I was like, what happened? Like, that felt really bad. Overall, people were super lovely, and it went generally really well. I was generally quite stressed because of the experience of freshly being in a wheelchair and interacting with people and not knowing why things were happening and what was going on. I'm very happy to have been getting better and to have been healing well. I appreciate the chair and the scooter and the crutches. I appreciate them for the mobility that they gave me. I'm very happy to be back being able to walk around now, and I definitely have a new appreciation and I don't know, knowledge and respect for people who are in wheelchairs or using mobility devices. I will say as well, the disabled bathrooms were generally really nice. Yeah, beautiful, clean. A lot of them were very modern and new. I only experienced like certain parts of Tokyo, but yeah, it was really good. Also, if you know, what are the 3 sinks for in the disabled bathroom? Because I saw there were 3 different ones and I'm like, ooh, I don't know what all of them are for, what they all mean. But yeah, disabled bathrooms were really great. It was nice to have that little piece of quiet space that was built for what I needed. And it was just, yeah, very nice. It was so good. I loved the disabled bathrooms. There was also like a weird sense of guilt that I had a lot, where I was like, but I'm not disabled. Am I really allowed to be in a chair? Am I really allowed to use these facilities? But I think, yeah, I was, and I needed to. I didn't have any other options. I needed to use them. So yeah, I don't know what that was. I don't know if anybody's experienced anything similar, but yeah, there was a lot of guilt going on. There was a lot of guilt on putting stuff on my friends and like having them push me around and stuff, but then also, you know, not wanting to feel guilty for just going through something. So yeah, there was a whole thing around that was sucky and interesting. It was easy for me to find accessibility friendly hotels. There are accessibility friendly restaurants that you can just find on Google Maps or Wheelog. People were lovely. Trains were very straightforward, as long as you're not like on a super tight rushing schedule. And I will say I did all of this process in Japanese, so I'm not too sure about the English accessibility of it. I'm sure that most station people will be able to understand short things, or if you just have a list, if you're able to have like a pre-made list of like, I want to go to blank. If you just have a list of phrases and stuff, I think you're going to be totally fine, and I think that a lot of staff people, especially in Tokyo, will speak English. Again, my only experience has been in Tokyo and a tiny little bit of Kyoto. So yeah, that's basically my experience with my broken tootsie, my fractured talus. It's been a time. Feeling pretty good now. Gonna start physio to work on my foot mobility, and yeah, just getting back into regular life, and it's been good. Hello, Emma from the future here. It has now been 7 months since I fractured my ankle, and here's a quick TLDR catch up to where I am now. After I finished with the clinic, I still had pain in my foot for quite a long time, and so I decided to go to a physiotherapist. The physio then told me to go to the hospital to get some scans to make sure that we could actually move forward. The scans and all the process took a really long time. There's a lot of layers to it, but I'm not even, it just takes so long. I got a CT scan eventually, and they said they found bone fragments in my foot, but that they are in a place where I don't need to really worry about it, so it should be fine. I then got started with physio, and it has been a very slow process. I still have stiffness and pain. It's much less than before. My pain is only at like a 2 or a 3, but it is still frustrating, you know. Living every day with just like a bit of pain is like, it sucks. But I'm still going to physio and doing my exercises and trying to get full range of motion back. I still don't have full range of motion. For a long time, I just kind of felt like, I'm gonna get back to life when my foot is better, and I'm gonna, like, once I just get past this, then I can get back to life and I'm gonna feel okay. And now I'm learning it's just kind of there and we're just gonna continue life. And yeah, I think it's gonna take a long time. I'm hoping that I get to no pain and I get to full range of motion, but just gonna take it as it comes and still go and see the physio. I'm going back to Australia on a trip, and I'm going to a podiatrist, and I'm just gonna get some more opinions and also look into like insoles and stuff, because I have really high foot arches, and that also is causing some issues. Basically, I'm generally good. I can walk fine, go downstairs fine, but yeah, bit of stiffness and pain that I am working on. I wanted to give a huge shout out to my patrons who have supported me all this time. For a while I wasn't making much content or doing much because honestly just having an injury really sucks. It's not fun. Thank you so much to everybody on Patreon for keeping me going and supporting me during this. To everyone else, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, or hit subscribe if you want to see more videos like this or not like this. But yeah, thank you so much for all the support and kindness, and I will see you in the next video. Ja ne!